Hi. D'Angelo Wallace has become one of YouTube's brightest stars over the past year or so, and for good reason. He's intelligent, he's honest, he's fair, and he puts in an exceptional amount of effort to create his videos, which results in acclaimed end products like his exposés of Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson, the latter of which has received over 10 million views in 1 month. It's YouTubers like Wallace that represent a bright future for the platform. People who are interested in engaging in nuanced discourse and providing evidentiary research for their callouts. He's even shown a willingness to call himself out when his judgment and conduct is not up to his standard. This type of content is sorely needed, as opposed to the years of poorly researched clickbait videos YouTube users are used to receiving. However, Wallace's latest video on his side channel, entitled #KPopStansAreOverParty, does bring forth some commonly held ideas about K-pop and its active, abrasive online fandoms that are worth discussing and, to an extent, contesting. As people who are part of BTS ARMY and have studied and written about K-pop for some short time now, perhaps it's best that we at Baby Gang do so. Hopefully this will stir up a productive conversation that will help stans and non-stans alike become more educated and progress-oriented in relation to these issues. Okay, let's get started. This is a response video. Hello, D'Angelo.
K-pop stans are superfans of various Korean pop groups, or at least that's what most K-pop stans will tell you. But if you ask literally anybody else, then you'll quickly discover basically nobody likes them.
The stigma about K-pop stans has become part of the stigma, sadly. Because ostensibly nobody likes K-pop stans, people become much less interested in learning about them or talking to them. But even the idea that nobody likes them can be contested to some degree, given that, for example, K-pop fandoms sometimes do form alliances with non-K-pop fandoms. BTS ARMY has teamed up in the past with Beyonce's Beehive and Becky G's Beasters. Additionally, it's not uncommon to see react channels, journalists, and more have pleasant interactions with stans. In the case of ARMY, journalists like Kim Youngdae, Lenica Cruz, and Liam McEwen, who have covered BTS, have had multiple pleasant interactions with the fandom to the point of complimenting it and further investigating it. Of course, this kind of connectivity only comes when a person is nice about BTS and ARMYs. When a person is rude, all bets are off. And unfortunately, the amount of K-pop stans on the internet that have done off-putting things has created a strong enough stereotype to cause most everyone to have an adverse reaction to them.
You'll quickly discover basically nobody likes them. They're known for attacking people, hijacking Twitter threads. It's a very different picture than your average K-pop fan would give you.
This is pretty much quantifiably untrue. For one, a quick perusal through the comment section of this video and any other video from sympathetic parties discussing toxicity within K-pop fandoms contains a multitude of K-pop fans pleading for people to look past the bad stans, to consider them a good stan, to distinguish that they are good stans and bad stans, and the bad stans give the rest a bad name, etc. I would guess that a vast majority of just those stans present in these toxic social media spaces would readily admit that K-pop stans are often very shitty. But there's also another important thing to point out about claims like this that should color how you approach the rest of the video, and that is, your average K-pop fan might not even be on Twitter. The biggest issue with analysis like this about K-pop and its fans from outsiders is that it identifies the typical toxic stans seen mostly on Twitter as being representatives of K-pop fans as a whole. This is not a fair assessment. Imagine if your only impressions of Star Wars fans or anime fans came from Twitter. You would think everyone who's a fan of those things is racist or misogynist or some type of toxic. Twitter breeds toxic interactions more than basically any other app. It also happens to be where many K-pop fans converge to get their news, to make friends in fandoms, and organize to do streaming parties, among other things. So while it is true that Twitter contains perhaps the most vibrant, visually noticeable subgroups of K-pop fans, especially given their penchants, as will soon be described by Wallace, to make the front page and get in everyone's faces, it is far from even the majority. For reference, the United States is by far the most active country on Twitter. In the first quarter of 2019, the number of active monthly Twitter users reached 68 million. In 2019, the population of the United States was 328.2 million. This means that of the app's most active country, only about 21% of the population were active on Twitter. And from the app, we can deduce that K-pop stans make up a minority, a small one, albeit a loud one. K-pop fans vary in age, location, demographics, and preferred apps. But throughout this video, Wallace only uses the term K-pop fans or stans to refer to these fans on Twitter, who are often from the United States, not even Korea, where the industry originates, much less the rest of Asia and the many other parts of the world that contain sizable K-pop fan activity, like Latin America. These fans are also often young, as opposed to the wide range of ages seen in K-pop fandom. And even among this select group of K-pop fans, it's widely agreed that only a loud minority can truly be conceived as toxic, particularly when defined by the behaviors that Wallace goes on to name. So, in short, most K-pop fans aren't on Twitter. The ones that are make up a minority of people on Twitter are mostly in the United States, and a minority of that minority are the actual toxic ones. Okay, and that's not to say that there's not toxic K-pop fans in other realms aside from Twitter. There certainly are, on YouTube, on Amino, but those are different type of stans that don't fit into the categories and behaviors that Wallace describes here, such as
the self-promotion. For context, K-pop is really obsessed with numbers, and I know being obsessed with charts and data is not specific to K-pop stans. It's just something that K-pop stans have taken to the next level. These people have streaming parties, streaming campaigns, special methods of streaming that vary from platform to platform to make sure they maximize streams. The K-pop artists themselves play into this by constantly updating their fans on how many streams they're getting. It's to the point where there are giant fan accounts that exist solely to share K-pop streaming numbers, and one of them has almost 1 million followers. So in order to keep these numbers up, many K-pop stans decide to take the direct approach, which is just spamming all over Twitter for people to stream their favorite artists. But where it gets annoying is when the K-pop stans start trying to promote themselves, basically. K-pop stans have what are called fan cams, which are like concert recordings of their favorite artists, and they spam these fan cams everywhere. Now, again, not everyone does this, but it's frequent enough to where I would be surprised if you managed to go a full day on Twitter without running into some random Korean pop artist dancing on the timeline.
The self-promotion of K-pop stans on Twitter can be annoying at times, but two things should be kept in mind when people examine these behaviors. For one, this promotion works. Fan cams have gained so much steam all over social media for great reason. When they catch fire, and they don't often do, they can propel an artist into stardom. The most famous example of this is a fan cam of EXID's Honey performing Up and Down, which went super viral on YouTube in 2014. At the time, EXID were a struggling K-pop group with great talent and output, but lacking in the notoriety needed to survive in the industry. Put simply, they were likely on the verge of disbandment. But when this fan cam went viral, it saved the group and propelled them to international music success. In fact, ask K-pop fans. It seemed like the entire K-pop industry was doing the famous Up and Down dance from the fan cam that year. Now, this is not the only example of a viral fan cam or edit, which is a video that puts the audio over a song of whatever clips the editor uses to express themselves, bringing tons of attention to an artist. By the way, that's free. I just explained a fan cam versus edit thing to you. Now remember that and use that knowledge. From the BTS Dang edit that gained tens of millions of views to the Lisa Swala dance, every good fan cam and edit has the potential to bring tons of new fans. And this is what the numbers obsession in K-pop is truly based in. Every year, tons of K-pop groups debut and very few stay around because the industry is incredibly costly. For fans of small groups whose existence hinges on gaining viral traction and building a fan base, tactics like fan cams and streaming parties are known to work at least sometimes, though their overall effectiveness has been debated among K-pop stans. And for fans of huge groups, there is always a little bit more space to go, more stigmas to break in the global music hegemony, which still considers Korean idol music to be a fad or a phase not worth critical examination. So, regardless of whether these videos get men angry on Twitter, stans will keep posting them as long as it can bring a good outcome for the groups they genuinely care about. Again, any small promotion tactic can be useful. And it can be necessary because promotion is very necessary for K-pop groups to truly break through in different markets. Korean stans do these tactics to boost artists domestically in a ruthlessly competitive K-pop industry. American stans do them knowing that American radio, TV, and streaming apps still otherize K-pop, segmenting it into its own broad, useless category and refusing to give it charting help or media boosts. The first time the Western music industry did a push of a BTS single, it was in English, and it went #1 2 weeks in a row. At least 2 weeks in a row. I don't know what day this is going to come out, but it might be more than that. Additionally, fan cams and edits are often a personal form of expression. Fellow stans of the group or other groups might see them and pay respect. Nice fan cam. And especially in the case of edits, these videos can be forms of creative expression. Numerous video editors have built a following for themselves simply through making really cool edits of their favorite K-pop song or star with different effects, or through making people laugh by matching the right meme to the right track. In summary, if you don't like fan cams, it's okay. They're easy to get annoyed by, but they're literally not for you. You can always just not watch them, first of all. Then again, given the ways in which certain online edgelords have used fan cams for gore jump scares to detract other stans from using them, their decline may be on the horizon after all. At least on Twitter.
Anonymity. Now, there's nothing wrong with being anonymous. Everyone on the internet has varying levels of anonymity. Then you have people like your average K-pop stan, and they give us nothing. Now, some people will use their real name or their real picture, but I think the majority of these stans grab a screenshot of their favorite artist and then slap it over a bio with no identifying information. No identifying information that can be used to hold them accountable for the legitimately terrible things that they then proceed to do. Dox people, send death threats, and they do all of this disgusting stuff while having a profile picture of like Jennie from Blackpink. I've seen fan cams and like post announcing celebrities' deaths. It's things that you know people would never really do if they weren't able to hide behind anonymity.
While anonymity does make for a great problem in stan spaces, the main issue I take from this point is that it describes an issue that in no way is exclusive to K-pop stans, in no way originates with K-pop stans, and in no way can be blamed on the majority of K-pop stans. For one, oftentimes the account that posts the edgiest things are trolls that have very small following and have existed for barely any time, and that's important to note, because a lot of them are fake. They're not actually K-pop stans. If I were to see an account that's dressed as an ARMY account but has 13 followers, was only started in August, and is only retweeting official content and tweeting terrible stuff, I'm going to assume that's a troll account. The vast majority of accounts that would do something like the Kobe troll tweet are ones that would not bother to be using their account for serious purposes, because if they did, they would get harassed and dogpiled until it became too difficult to keep the account running. As a science experiment, think about what would happen to your account if you were to tweet something really negative about Jennie from Blackpink on your main account. Not only would the negative tweet get ratioed and reported to oblivion, but the rest of your tweets would get dogpiled, and your DMs would stack up with death threats and doxing. Because these troll accounts are dressed as K-pop stan accounts, it is the entirety of K-pop stan Twitter that receives the blame for this behavior, even though there's no real evidence to support that this account is even a legitimate fan of the artist it claims most of the time. Oftentimes, fans of one group will make a fake stan account of a rival group and cause drama by talking shit about the first group. This fuels the "your fandom started it" aspect of online fan wars. This kind of trolling exists in every fandom space and on every social media platform, but only K-pop stans are unilaterally blamed for all of it. Perhaps it's because K-pop stans are perceived as young girls, or that they support these wholesome, pretty artists, that makes the appearance of their toxicity so jarring. But gamer internet, politics internet, etc. prove to be even more toxic and troll infested. It's no wonder K-pop stans choose to be anonymous. When you're that hated just because you love a certain type of artist, why would you want your personal information associated with your mediums to fan out? That's not to say K-pop stan spaces should not investigate this behavior critically and that those responsible for these behaviors should not be punished and prevented. But why is it that you can start a Twitch channel tomorrow for playing Call of Duty and you won't have swarms of people telling you you're toxic, but solely for having a YouTube channel or a Twitter account wherein you discuss your K-pop fandom, you get all kinds of side eyes and accusations of obsessive behavior? That shit does make sense to me.
The last negative thing I want to look at is the cancel parties. Basically, people choose a new person to cancel on Twitter every single week. And K-pop stans have a lot to do with this. Some of them actually start these hashtags themselves, specifically for the purpose of getting a trending tag that they can then attach their fan cams to.
This part of the video features a still wherein Wallace shows 3 different trending hashtags that have supposedly existed solely for stans to post fan cams. This is problematic because at least 2 of the hashtags were trended by K-pop stans for much more valid reasons, quote unquote valid. For one, the H3H3 is over party hashtag came as a reaction from K-pop stans and others representing their interests to H3's homophobic and misogynistic comments about K-pop being something for little girls to jerk off to.
I hate K-pop. I don't get BTS.
K-pop?
They look like they're just a bunch of... How did this become a thing in Western culture where all these grown men and little girls are jerking off to little K-pop boys? It's like a little fetish. It's like a little twink gay fetish about these K-pop boys.
While expressing his disdain for BTS's popularity. Now, regardless of whether you feel like Ethan Klein's comments were just edgy jokes to be brushed off or offensive comments that can further an otherizing narrative about people who just enjoy a genre of music, it's clear that there was a substantive issue at play which K-pop fans, who were the butt of this insulting joke, were reacting to by genuinely pushing to cancel Ethan Klein, whatever that entails. Even the Katy Perry is over party hashtag was started by Katy Perry stans, first of all. It was incentivized by BTS armies taking offense to Katy Perry's comments at her Jingle Ball performance last year, telling a crowd of mostly BTS fans who stayed and showed respect to the rest of the lineup after BTS opened the event that most of you get to stay up late past your bedtimes. This was taken as a slight by many fans, many of whom in the crowd were paying adults, just like Katy Perry's similarly stigmatized fanbase. Whether or not you think this was worth getting mad over, this was still a reaction to an incident which K-pop fans took offense to, not just spam used for them to attach fan cams. And in the case of Chris Evans' over party, the original issues surrounding criticism of Evans often originate from his potential pro-IDF stance, given a particular film he starred in. The issue at play there is more that K-pop fans hijacked this critical hashtag to post fan cams and other irrelevant spam, something that is unhelpful and should be called out, as Wallace does right after. But just like the other 2 hashtags Wallace uses to substantiate his point, is simply not an example of what he's describing. None of these are instances of K-pop fans, quote-unquote, starting hashtags themselves specifically for the purpose of getting a trending tag they can attach their fan cams to. This concludes the part of the video wherein Wallace lists the negatives of K-pop stans. The rest of the video is him taking into account the ways in which many K-pop stans use their organization and their K-pop materials to take down police apps and troll white supremacist hashtags.
You can see that they've raised over $2 million in donations by supporting BTS and hosting the streaming parties and all the stuff I was talking about. These stans are actually enabling BTS to be this charitable. While BTS donated $1 million, which is great, BTS Army actually matched that $1 million donation, strength in numbers, and so the Dallas Police Department thought it would be a great idea to develop this app that lets you report unlawful activity at the protests. And K-pop stans, in an effort to stop the police from unfairly targeting protesters, actually shut this app down when they bought a ton of tickets to a Trump rally and then didn't attend, which some people thought led to a severe over-reporting of numbers for what wound up being A rather disappointing turnout, the community. For the most part, a lot of K-pop stans are pretty welcoming to people who want to join, you know, people who are new in the group. And if you start actually trying to get a profile of the average K-pop stan, you start realizing that for some people, this is kind of all they have. For a lot of people, this Twitter community that they've built is their main source of social interaction. And so I think creating an environment where people do feel free to talk to each other and talk about things that matter is actually really important. It's something that you don't really see in many other communities, if I had to be honest.
While these are indeed examples of how Twitter K-pop stans have used their power for good, these instances also bring forth a multitude of complicated conversations, some of which I tackled in a piece I wrote for GenMag in June. For one, K-pop fandoms should not be considered traditional communities where these just actors are defined solely by their being K-pop stans. People like Adeze from BTS ARMY, who helped trend the BTS ARMY fundraising hashtag #MatchAMillion, which culminated in the fandom raising over $1 million for numerous pro-black organizations after BTS's $1 million donation to Black Lives Matter, should be reported on and noted individually for their actions as individuals. In showcasing the individual actions of individual actors in K-pop fandoms, we can further beat down the narrative that K-pop stans are this hive mind mob of ne'er-do-wells on Twitter, and subconsciously teach people that, in fact, each and every K-pop fan is an individual with their own stories, ideas, and actions, and that K-pop fandom only represents a passion through which they engage with others on social media. It can also help us to advance conversations of racism and other forms of bigotry that are prevalent in K-pop fandom to this day, as we often see when K-pop idols are accused of appropriation and significant minorities of fans defend them, claim they're not at fault, or even attack people from marginalized groups for raising legitimate concerns about things that offend them. Ultimately, BTS ARMY is a badge that I put on and take off depending on what I engage with and how I engage with it. Though I am an ARMY, my actions are reflections of myself. I only truly unify with a large group of people when I participate in discourse and organized action performed by people within that interest group. Fandoms are loose collectives of people who share a passion together, and even narratives that orient these fandoms as good or bad, depending on how certain organized actions are perceived, are still minimizing the humanity and individuality of people in these fandoms. In other words, K-pop fans aren't K-pop fans, they're just fucking people, dude. The only thing people in a fandom have in common is that we love a specific group, and we share a space sometimes wherein good or bad things can happen, and even that is shaky for certain fans. Now try grouping in all fandoms together based on their favorite artists being loosely part of the same industry, and you will find even less commonalities. D'Angelo Wallace has at times been dismissive of BTS ARMYs on his YouTube channel and on Twitter, once for taking exception to a comment Dr. Phil made about Jimin, and another time for criticizing the Grammys en masse. These comments, in tandem with this video and his somewhat unfavorable review of BTS's Map of the Soul 7, showcase a type of light animosity for a very generalized idea of the BTS fandom, and K-pop fandom in general. In reality, K-pop stans are constantly at odds with each other over their stances, their behaviors, and more. They are not monolithic, they just appear to be so thanks to the norms and algorithms of Twitter and the stigmas of society. In order for truly helpful investigation and criticism of K-pop stans to emerge, people who have actually ventured into and studied these fandoms with patience and open-mindedness have to be prioritized. If stans themselves aren't going to do these investigations, as BTS ARMYs have done with the R3 Journal, then stans will have to be consulted thoroughly. Just like any good investigation, you have to really get in there to actually do good investigation.
What? I have to try?
Because time and time again, the ways in which outsiders depict stans prove that they're not as studied on these subjects as they may think that they are. With that said, it's up to stans themselves to learn, to study, and to rebuttal videos like these. D'Angelo Wallace is, as I clarified at the beginning of the video, one of YouTube's brightest and most thorough commentators. If his video on K-pop is lacking, imagine the videos of the countless other users who are not so vaunted. And that's why we here at Baby Gang will be starting our fall-winter video essay series, the Fandom Series, coming soon. Oh, man. No, but for real, see you in November.
Just because you've had negative experiences with K-pop stans doesn't mean that you have a right to think uncritically about them. Yeah.